Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Let me just go to the next slide. Today's webinar about essential GDPR compliant reports to help you manage Office 365 or Microsoft 365. My name is Luzanne Lottering, and I am the Account Success Manager here at Cardiolog Analytics. And I'm joined today by Microsoft MVP and SharePoint expert, Joran Hassman. Thank you for joining us, Joran.
Thank you.
So before we really get started, quickly a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. If you want to share this with a colleague, we're going to be sending an email with the recording after today's session. And of course, if you have any questions, we'll leave some time towards the end of the webinar for questions. You can send the questions through the questions box within the GoToWebinar panel. Just submit all your questions as we go through the webinar. In regards to the agenda for today's webinar, we'll start out with a very short introduction about Cardiolog Analytics and who we are, and then Joran will introduce himself and dive right into the topic and share his expertise about the importance of understanding SharePoint and Office 365 usage and driving adoption in those environments. And then I'll jump into a presentation and show you how exactly European customers can drive Office 365 usage and increase portal productivity with our GDPR compliant analytics. And as I've mentioned, at the end, we'll have time for some Q&A, so feel free to send those questions throughout the course of the presentation. So I'll start off with a brief introduction. Cardiolog Analytics has been around since 2005. We are based out of Boston, and over the past 17, almost 18 years, we've been focused on analytics and engagement designed for SharePoint, Office and Microsoft 365. Our flagship solution is Cardiolog Analytics, and it's built specifically for internal platforms, including all versions of SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive, Exchange, and now also Viva Connections. So our goal is to help our customers to constantly improve Office 365 based on how it's being used. So there are 4 pillars that we talk to our customers about. The first is monitor, which is tracking the usage within Microsoft 365 apps. The second is engaging users, asking them what their needs are and what's not working for them. The next pillar is enhance. The idea is to have actionable metrics which will allow to constantly make Microsoft 365 or Office 365 platforms better for our users. And then finally, the last pillar is incentivize. So we want to increase your adoption and productivity with gamification techniques. To get to today's topic, essential GDPR compliant reports to help you manage Office 365. During this webinar, we will explore how European organizations can use Cardiolog Analytics to gain insights on how you're using the various services within Office 365 and help you to drive user adoption thereof and optimize overall productivity in your organization. So I will now go ahead and hand things over to Joran, who will introduce himself and jump into the presentation. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, Joran, and the stage is yours.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. Let's go over to the short presentation slide here. Joran Hassman from Sweden, founder of Human Data. Been working with SharePoint since its beginning in 2001. Have a number of MVP awards. I'm a certified trainer. I've also written for SharePoint and Exchange books. And my personal sign on my car is SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So if you see that car, you know it's mine. And that also makes a way that I, from the beginning, was a really exchange lover, yes, but now I'm into SharePoint also, and especially Microsoft 365. I work as a solution architect. I've been working the last 6.5 years for implementing Office 365 for H&M in 33 countries, but also now working with some medical or life science companies and some banks and so on. So I've done a lot of things regarding SharePoint. And what I can see, which is very natural, is that we have, if you are responsible for an intranet, sorry, that's my dog in the background. So if you have an intranet and you're responsible for it, you want it, of course, to be nice and attractive, right? You want to make it useful and informative, not just looking good, but actually being good. And it must be easy to find interesting information. And if you find out that some content is not interesting, you need to move that away. And especially if it's not relevant, you want to hide it or delete it altogether. So what you need to find out all this is to have statistics or analytics to see how your intranet or your, it could be any type of site or portal, how is it used? Not just one time, but continuously. So the challenges you, again, as an intranet owner have is to find out things like, do my users like the intranet? Of course, you can send them a feedback form using Microsoft Forms and ask for feedback, but it's typically hard to get them to do this. So yeah, we would like to have another way if it was possible. And another question is, what parts is most interesting for your users? So how can you find that out? Again, maybe the feedback form would give you, but there are some built-in analytics that you can use. Maybe you would like to find out that your fancy new intranet is not used by some people. Who are these users, and what can we do to make them more interested or force them to come to the intranet more or less? There is no way to find that out actually in SharePoint. And is it intuitive enough? You know, I often hear that my customer, they said, oh, search is so important, we need to have search, and you recognize this if you have been around in SharePoint for a while. And you know, search is the plan B. Search is only used when you don't find what you are looking for very easily, very intuitive. So I've looked, for example, at H&M's statistics for search with their 28,000 users, and it's not used very often, I can say. It's more easy for people to ask their colleagues or just hunt around and try to see if they find what they're looking for. So it would be fantastic if we could see what are they doing, why, what are they looking for, and so on. So we need some really clever tools for that. And SharePoint, I mean, it's a fantastic tool. I love SharePoint. It's really, I wouldn't say it's more important than my wife, but you know, it's close. So I really love that one. But it doesn't have really good statistical or analytical tools. That's the plain truth. So let's look at one then to see how it's what we can do. So I'm opening my human data's intranet, and I and some colleagues have tried to build this to make it interesting. So we have news here, we have important feeds that is personal for just me looking at now, and some news, and I can see events happening and so on. That again, it's directed to me. So if another person look at this one, they only see what they are supposed to see. A news that is coming from different parts that I should probably read. I can see my latest used documents. I can see my mostly used sites and so on. And now I would like to see, okay, which part of this is used or not used? Well, we have something here. If I'm the owner of the site, I can check the analytics. I click this one and I can get an overview like this, and I can switch that over to 90 days, for example, for these different parts. But it doesn't really say me so much. It's a very, very basic analytics. I can get some more if I open this one and say site usage. It's roughly the same type of information, but it's with more details. So I can see now when the people are using it, but I can't see who is using it. So for example, I can see if somebody never has actually used the site. I can see what sites are most popular, or what documents or news are most popular, but nothing more. So that's, well, it's based on this information, it's really hard to find out if it's working or not, if I should change something or not. And that is the reason why I contacted Cardiolog Analytics company, the Interlock company, to find a really good tool. I looked at several analytical tools actually, and I like this one most, and that's why I'm here today. So with that, I think it's actually time for you to continue. We want to see some cool features now.
Great, thank you very much for that, Göran, for all that interesting and very helpful information. And as Göran has said, there's not just a need for analytics, but the need is for advanced analytics, for an advanced tool such as Cardiolog Analytics. So I would now love to walk you through. Let me just quickly share my screen again. So yeah, I would now, as Göran said, love to walk you through our tool and walk you through how you can drive Office 365 usage and how you can get great insights in order to increase the portal productivity with our GDPR compliant analytics. So yes, Cardiolog Analytics will help your organization to basically maximize the power of your investment by accelerating your SharePoint or your Office 365 user adoption in order to reach your all-important company goals. So I will jump right into this demonstration. Cardiolog Analytics is a tool that tracks all Office or Microsoft 365 apps. It provides you with actionable insights about your usage by showing you exactly what features users like and which they still haven't incorporated, for example, into their daily routine. So it allows you to measure its value and helps to encourage employees to integrate more 365 features into their workday and enhance their productivity. So here you can see a list of some of the many out-of-the-box dashboards Cardiolog Analytics customers get. So these dashboards are built on topics of interest that our customers have asked us for. Things such as user adoption, search analytics, and here towards the bottom, navigation. So let's look through a couple of these dashboards and I'll show you some of the data that you can get with Cardiolog Analytics. So the first dashboard I'm showing is a high-level adoption across 365 because these are some platforms that users are adopting well too, and maybe we should focus on other platforms, maybe Teams, for example, maybe or perhaps we can see less adoption and then we know what to focus on. If I hop over to usage overview, this next dashboard, you'll see that it's more SharePoint, a more SharePoint-centric dashboard. And here you can see on the far left-hand side the SharePoint hierarchy, where we can track, of course, hyper deployments of SharePoint on-prem and SharePoint Online, and you can see here, as you can see here, my demo, and you can map out all of your sites. Here, for example, I have all my different sites, HR, IT, and we can, of course, drill down to lists, libraries, down to list item level. So it's very easy to report on anything that you want to see in SharePoint, all the way down to list item level, like specific pages or specific documents or announcements, basically really any content that you wish or you'd like to report on. So looking at some of the content I have in this chart and table, we can see the most, let me open this up and then I can give you a better view. The most popular or the most active content based on these page view numbers. So for example, if we launched a new HR site, or we have a new really important policy. I know last year or the year before, it was all about a super important Corona policy. Then we can see here if people actually taking advantage of that new content. And once we know about this, we can launch a campaign and make sure people are in fact aware of this wonderful new HR site or super important document or policy. But I can also flip this around. There we go. And now I'm seeing all the inactive content. So that's all the content that's not being used often, or in this case with all these zeros, not at all. And that's whether it's sites or documents or pages, or maybe entire sites people are not accessing. It could be because they are old and no longer needed, and we can maybe now archive them. Or perhaps it's new content that our users are just simply unaware of. And once you know about that, you are then empowered to take action and make those necessary improvements. And that could be deleting or archiving, maybe notifying everyone about the site, and adding a link from the home page or launching a campaign, whatever the case may be for your particular organization. But besides views, we can also see other insights here. When last the content was viewed or accessed, the duration, how long the content was viewed for, and of course you can customize all of this so if you don't care for the number of likes or page load time, you can remove all those columns and add other columns of data instead. So that's the action we can take based on what's most popular and the unused content. Besides that, there's more information here, like everything from who owns this content to the size of the content, and all of this will also help you take action. For example, with really large content, the admin can find out who owns it, and they can contact that person who is the owner of the content and tell them that they have maybe 60 days to get rid of the content or take action to improve it, or it will be deleted, just as an example. So if I go back to the report, at the very top here, we can see the different content types. So for example, if I just want to see, let's say, documents for most popular or least popular, instead of all the content, I'll select documents, and now you can see that this report will only show data about documents. If I look here under adoption, here I'm showing all the active and inactive users. And this is how you know who's not very active. So you can target those who need more training or more support and help them improve their adoption rates. Or if we look here, a breakdown by departments, this is also customizable, and it can be any attribute you'd like to see, like region, country, branch, or job title. Everything here can be sliced and diced or filtered. If I click here on a department such as, let's say, sales, you can now see exactly the content that they are interacting with, or vice versa. If there's specific content that someone cares about, I can click and filter by that content. And then you can see here that that content is mostly viewed by the HR department or the customer service department or whatever the case may be. So it's very easy to slice and dice the data by attributes that you'd like to leverage. The next dashboard I want to hop into is search optimization. So for example, is everyone looking for the same document or the same page? If that's the case, then obviously we want to surface that content so it's easier to find. So you're on the top left, or well, the top left as well as the bottom left, you can see the top search term is benefits. We can click on that. So if everyone in the company is searching for the term benefits, it will be smart to obviously filter the entire dashboard by that one search term. And now I can see that benefits has been searched over 1,100 times. And if I multiply that by over 60 seconds per search, it is a lot of time wasted looking for just one piece of content or one search term. But now that I know about it, I can surface it. We might add a link from the home page with this employee benefits to save a lot of time that is now currently spent searching for that content. And that will improve the overall productivity in the organization and help adoption as well. So if you are if you have maybe existing content on benefits, you may need to optimize that content. Or if you don't have a lot of helpful content regarding this particular topic, this is a great indicator to start creating content to help your users get the information they need. Basically, as technology becomes easier to use, people will come back and they'll use it more. If we quickly look at successful versus failed searches, do we have a high level of failed search? Yes. So we can see that this is actually something that's quite concerning. That means that only half of those users actually clicked on the results, and it means even more time is being wasted. But once we have the data, we have a way of making improvements, and we try to translate the raw data. Here we are translating it to money lost, time wasted on these failed searches. And you can see that it's also really interesting and helpful information to receive regarding search and to help to optimize search in order to bring these numbers on wasted time and money down. And we can also go beyond usage to usability. Let me quickly hop into this dashboard. You can see also the page load time by geography in this map here. So for example, is your SharePoint portal loading slow in specific parts of the world? Or you can drill down to a state or a territory or a branch. And we can also talk about slow pages. In this report, it identifies the pages on your site that take the longest to be displayed to your users. So if there's a lot of content loaded by the site owner on a single page, it would cause that page to take many, many seconds to load. And that could be also a reason why no one is adopting that content. But once you are aware of that and you make those changes, and you are able to take action, that's when we are making those very necessary improvements. If we have a quick look at navigation. So for example, if we talk about navigation, all you have to do here is copy and paste the URL that you are curious about, maybe an important announcement or blog post, maybe your homepage, and then you can find out what the previous page is, how folks get to that content or where they're going to as a next step in their journey. Or for a more in-depth journey or funnel, we can also build those here very easily. I'll take you to the most popular route that people are navigating through in SharePoint. So if we see, for example, here we can see most users end up here at training videos. So maybe add a link to the specific content whenever they reach the portal homepage, and that also can save a lot of extra steps that you need to make in order to get to the specific content. So the more insights you have on users' behavior, the more empowered we are to make those tweaks and those changes to make SharePoint a better experience for our users. I want to show you similar data on Teams. and how people are adopting Teams or using Teams. So for example, if we start off here with the Teams usage overview, you can see who our top teams are and also how active each top team is. And that will give you a really good benchmark of what a successful or what a productive team looks like for you. You can also see something really important here, the last activity date, so you can archive those inactive teams, or maybe you want to give some training to those teams. If I quickly hop over to engagement overview, it's a great dashboard. In order to monitor usage, you have to review reports to understand emerging trends. So for example, if we look here at access type, this usage report shows that not many people are using a certain device to access Teams. So this may indicate that users aren't sure how to do so, but now that we know about this, we can post maybe step-by-step installation instructions for that specific device, which will also help drive usage of a wider device range. If you look at Teams with private chat messages, this usage report shows that users are primarily using Teams for team messages, but if it was the other way around, then you may want to review your team scenarios, because then users are maybe chatting outside the initial teams and channels that were set up. So by having these valuable insights, you can reach out to your users. I'm going to show you how you can reach out to those users in a few minutes when I get to the engagement part. So you can actually change the user behavior in order for them to be more productive and collaborative. I'll hop into one more dashboard here for Teams. That's about content. So for each team and channel, you can see if they are sharing content in tabs, if they are sending attachments. So if customers want to give training for teams, and if we know, for example, a specific team isn't sharing content, for example, it could be that they might not even know that it's a functionality. So when we train, we know exactly where to focus on our training. It's also important to track users' productivity within Teams to ensure that users are using all of the functionalities in Teams and not just using it as a chat-based platform, but actually using it to be, and there are those keywords again, to be productive and to be collaborative. So I just wanted to show you also those couple of dashboards for Teams. And now something really great from Cardiolog Analytics. Besides the dashboards, we also provide augmented analytics right on the page itself, as you can see here, right on the SharePoint page. So augmented analytics drive SharePoint adoption and users' productivity with SaaS-based data analytics maps and insights. And what's great is that it pinpoints problematic areas on the SharePoint page, so you are then able to take action based on this data. So you can take here really any content within the SharePoint page, and then we'll add a couple of layers. So first you'll be able to see each and every, like literally each and every click performed on the page, and you can see around most of the buttons and the headers and the images, we have most of the clicks. But if you prefer to see button clicks by the number, then object it, and then here, if I hover over each of these links, for example, you'll be able to see the amount of clicks on that link or that image. So we can see aggregated total links on each link button or the actual clicks or points. We can also visualize this as a heat map. Here we go, to emphasize even more where the hotspots on the page are. For example, similar to the Cardiolog Analytics data you have in the reports, you can also use different kinds of filters here with the data. So you can see interaction from a specific date range, or you can see data from yesterday or last week, for example, or you can customize it, different dates that you want to see data for. Other filters will include things such as filtering by department or location, or other attributes that you might want to use, it's very valuable to see what part of the page, such as this home page, is being accessed or used by people from different departments. And then another layer here is the insights. Let me switch this on. So because we know not only where they clicked on this page, but also on the next pages, we are trying to help customers not just get the data, like for example, 1,000 clicks or so forth, but also to add some insights for them as well. So here, for example, we are saying that 74% of visitors who clicked on this link to view the list of all articles clicked on the third article on the next page. So really impressive insights, and it's giving you some recommendations. So add a link to it directly on the homepage, and that will save up to 104 minutes a week, or save up to 86 minutes a week. So yeah, that's really great. Not just the data, but actually these insights that will help you take action. So, like I said, so the idea is to go one step beyond the raw data of the number of clicks, but to give these additional insights for our customers on where they might want to take a little bit more notice, and these really amazing suggestions on how they can improve different areas on the page. And then the last thing I want to show you today is, now that we have all this data, we have all these insights, how do we actually use that to drive productivity and drive engagement and drive collaboration? How do we actually reach out to those inactive departments or teams or users? And that's where the engagement part comes in, which is really, really neat. So if we look here at Cardiolog Engage, the whole point is that we want to reach out to specific groups or people or users or individuals based on the data. So say, for example, I have now seen in the data that there are users who did not interact with any campaign or interact with Yammer or click on a search result, or maybe they didn't interact with Microsoft Teams ever or in the last 30 days. Then obviously I don't want to bombard everyone with this message. I want to send a very targeted message to a very specific audience. Or maybe I want to reach out to all users who belong to a specific department in SharePoint or a specific team in Teams. Again, I've noticed in the data that a specific team is lagging in terms of adoption. Then I want to reach out to them and help those specific users who belong to that team. So it's all about choosing the relevant audience. Then the next step would be the channel. How do I reach out to them? Maybe a quick in-app message right within the SharePoint page, full screen, or it will pop up as a header or footer, again, right within the SharePoint page. Or I'll shoot them a quick email with a link to a document that they maybe haven't read that's really important, or a link to the new homepage, or maybe right within Teams, I can send them a message that will show up as a channel within Teams. So whichever channel is most relevant for your audience, you will select to send that message in. Then you will actually type out that message. Here's a link to, I'm not going to do that now. I want to go as quickly as possible. Here's a link to a document I've noticed that you haven't accessed. Here is an important policy that you need to open. Maybe you also want to add a call to action. You can confirm that they can confirm if they've seen a message. Maybe you want to invite them to some training, whatever the case may be. And again, you want to reach out to a specific audience based on the data. And you will also write a specific message and have a specific call to action based on what you are trying to achieve. And then the last step will be you want to send that message immediately at a specific date and time. It doesn't matter which time zone it is, or you can trigger it based on their behavior. So when they are scrolling down a specific page or viewing a specific page or maybe performing a search, you know that's when they are active, that's when they are engaged. So what better time for this pop-up to appear? So it's all about sending the right message to the right person at the right time in order to get their attention, in order to get them to change their behavior. And again, all of that is to drive adoption and to drive collaboration in these platforms. So that concludes the presentation or the demo I wanted to show you. We'll now end with a couple of questions. Let me...
Susanne?
Yes.
I've shown this tool to some organization, and sometimes they say, "Oh, there's so much options. There's so much," and again, you don't need to actually use everything, right? You get a Lego box here with thousands of bits in it, but you don't have to play with all the bits. So what you need to learn is what are your objectives? What do you want to find out, and what actions do you want to take? And then you focus on that. So you don't have to learn everything in this tool. Don't be overwhelmed with all the cool features that Lucette is showing you. But it's, as you can see, it's really, really rich on functionalities, doing things that you probably didn't believe could be done. Yeah, that's my comment.
Exactly, Joran. That's very accurate what you said. I've now, obviously it's a demo, I wanted to show as much as possible. I went really quickly through everything, and that could be overwhelming, but it's exactly like you said. Once our customer gets the training from us, we work with them to see exactly what their goals and what their objectives are, and then we work with them with those specific reports that they need in order to reach their goals, to make sure they don't get overwhelmed by all of the reports and they're actually just accessing and using the ones that make sense for them. But you are absolutely right that seeing it like this in a demo could be overwhelming, because I get so excited to show all of the features that we have. So I'm maybe showing more than I should, but it's important to know what is out there and what our functionalities are. But in no way does a customer have to use all of it, only what makes sense to them according to their goals and objectives. So yes, thank you very much for that. That's a very important thing to add. So I see that we do have a couple of questions here. I have a question from Frederick. I'm not quite sure how to say your name. Sorry about that. Frederick, I'll call you Frederick. So Frederick is asking regarding what the licensing is for this. So it's a yearly subscription. The license is a yearly subscription, and that will be based on the number of users that we will be tracking. So if you want to reach out to us directly and we can have a conversation about that in the next slide, I'll just change to that slide. So you can see the contact details whilst I'm going through the questions. I have another question here from Maria asking about deployment, if it takes long and if it's difficult to deploy. So actually, no, Maria, what's really great and really neat about this tool is because it is designed for SharePoint, there's no need for customization when you want to deploy. Basically, with our setup wizard, you can get it up and running really within an hour or so and already start collecting data. So those are the two questions I see in the questions box. I also just wanted to add, you can see on the screen here, it's written free trial. So obviously, because we've said now, it can be quite overwhelming and there are a lot of reports, but the best thing to do would be to we offer a free trial as well as a proof of concept for people who maybe want a longer evaluation or to try more environments and features versus our free trial, which is limited. I think that will be the best way to understand what is important for your company, how to work with this tool. To just actually give it a try will be the best. So we can definitely also share more information about what's included in, like I've mentioned, the free trial and the proof of concept. So please reach out to us. So that said, I'm going to wrap up today's session. Again, a huge thank you to Joran for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your expertise and this really valuable information. It's always a pleasure for Cardiolog Analytics to have any joint ventures with you. And then we invite you to visit us at cardiologanalytics.com to book that free demo or that trial I've mentioned, so we can show you more capabilities for Microsoft 365 apps. We also have other tools such as a gamification tool that you can find out more about. And for more information and helpful tips, you can check out our blog at blog.intlock.com. And you are most welcome to contact us at info@intlock.com or Joran at info@humandata.se. Joran, anything else from your side before we wrap this up?
No, maybe just mention that when you install this, you can choose either to have it as a software as a service, meaning that you don't install any servers at all. You just use this and give it access to your data, your 365 environment, or you can have it running on your own server if you are concerned about that. So you have different options for installing.
Exactly, yes, the SaaS version or the on-prem version. Thank you for that, exactly. Yeah, so a big thank you to everyone who joined, and again, thank you to you, Joran, and we will hopefully hear from a couple of you soon. And yeah, have a good rest of your day, and goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, and thank you very much, Susan.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.